Alright, so shortly we're going to have the start of Deltobowl, and with the fantastic power of pausing, I can now do an intro and then do the rest shortly when it actually begins. Obviously, these are two of the greatest players of all time, possibly the two greatest. If I start popping open tabs, I can start showing off some of their many successes. I'm just going to pop open a few. I think this one. So if we're looking at Seto, his first Rhinoa run beats Luca in round 1, beats the mighty Jadot in round 2, a young but still very good Piggyman in round 3, the extremely solid Phips in round 4, great Sephiroth in the semifinals, and then he wins a three-way finals beating Sujiro and Jaws. Of course, two tremendous players to take down Rhinoa. He then defends it 3 times successfully, I believe. Ridiculous performance. Let's look at other wins of Seto's. He wins Triad Wars 8. He beats Bren in round 1. He beats Soli. He beats Yojimbo. He beats Delial. This is, in fact, the first time he beat Delial in an open tournament. He has beaten Delial twice in open tournaments, most recently in Nephilim, in Majors. Beats Delial, beats Great Sephiroth. This is a crazy run. Yojimbo, Delial, Great Sephiroth. And then in the finals, beats MC. Again, insane run, fantastic performance. I think I popped open the wrong one here, wasn't sure. He makes the finals of this one. He has a whole bunch of finals as well. Cloud's Kid, Addy, Mogwai, Scythe, Bryce, who's truly excellent, Tezuka, and loses to Virgil in the finals. Wasn't the one I meant to open. The one I meant to open was this one, I believe. Beats Cookie. And this was in the early days. This is like 2006-07, so Cookie is arguably the best player on the site at this point. Rhinoa, Sachi, good run for Sachi. Gambit X, Diacon Entite, D, and in the finals, Coops. This was the first tournament he ever won. Another one he won that I still am annoyed about, but we'll ignore that. Was S.E. Ward. You can probably figure out why if you look closely. Beats Thea in the first round, beats Koner in the second round, beats Broccoli in the third. 2 consecutive winners who both won tournaments right around then. Beats Ray in the quarterfinals. Ray was basically just making quarterfinals of every tournament at this point. Beats Piggyman in the semis, takes out Midas in the finals. And that's, I believe, his 4th title. Then on the other hand, we have Delial. It will be harder to open all the ones he's won because there's, they just keep on coming. But I think we can find them. Which SEs, though? That's the tricky part. Just so many. Irvine? I think I'm missing one. Kate said. Okay. He wins Onion Knight. This was the closed tournament he won. This is another meeting of Deli and Seto, the only time they met in a closed tournament. Delial pulls off the win. He beats General, very good closed player, Raceland Majir, who won a closed tournament. Foyer, good in every format. Seto, who is, of course, a reasonable player. And Turds, the fantastic Turds in the finals. He wins a Rhinoa. Not this one, though. This one. He wins a Rhinoa with Roseman as his teammate. MC and Ray, it's a very strong team to have beaten. Also, Amo and Mysterious Ass. Mysterious Ass has been a problem for Deli in tournaments. This is a tricky match. And takes down Rhinoa. So this gives him a Rhinoa and a closed win. He also won a site championship, beating Pamela, Fusion Clouder Kazdon, Selder, and Yojimbo in the finals to finally win a TTAC and TTAC 12. He is the person who has won the most different types of tournaments. Triad Wars 6, I think, is arguably his greatest success, but maybe a different one is. He beats Chaj, then he beats Mains and Chris C. This seems like a weak opening, But Sinister, I think, is also known as Gambit, very strong. Koner, and then the fact that it's a three-way finals where he beats Seto and Meta. And I think if you look at some of the Seto tournaments, they look like more impressive runs. But I think when I did a numerical look, this is probably the best run of all time. Because if you exclude Deli, Seto is clearly the best player on the site at this point, and arguably is if you include Deli as well. It's between those two. Koner, I think, was clearly... Koner and Meta had the next highest ratings on the site. So he beat the three highest rated players at the time that weren't him. And there are lots of times when someone beats a really impressive field. You know, we saw Seto beat Yojimbo, Great Sephiroth, and MC consecutively. And at the time, I had those players rated like 3rd, 5th, and 7th or something. You know, very strong. But this is legitimately, if you take out Delial, 1, 2, and 3, I think at this point in time, is Seto, Meta, and Koner in some order. And then Gambit's pretty high up, kind of top 15-ish as well. So this is arguably the toughest run ever. He also wins Irvine, beating Soki, Anth, Yojimbo, Chadat. Here's a win against Seto, and Scythe in the finals. And finally, Kate Sith, where he beats... Where are you? SCL, Foyer, Meta again. Meta's main weakness was he would lose to Delial, D, Kaus, and Kamikaze. Another superb run. So obviously, both are two of the greatest ever. They have played 6 times now in official tournaments. I think Delial won the first 2, then Seto won the 3rd, which we saw as Seto's open win. Deli took the 4th, and then in a closed tournament, Deli took the 5th to lead 4-1. Recently in Nephilim, we had an incredibly dramatic match between them. Ooh, it's nice to see Kazik playing again. Haven't seen him around in a bit. In Nephilim, Delial was winning in game 1 and misclicked away the win. And then I think Seto played a fantastic game in game 2. There may have been some other stuff going on, but I think Seto played great that game. And Seto converted in the second game. And so the lifetime score between them is 4-2, 3-2 if you decide to exclude closed or consider closed a separate category. And I'm really excited to see them go at it. They've won 10 majors between them from the years 2007 to 2000, say mid-2009. I think they were just universally considered the top 2 players in the world, and many continued believing that for many years after, though I think the next era, Yojimbo and myself were a little more dominant. But meaning then Delial and Seto in that era. But Delial and Seto have, 2 to 3 years where they're just pretty clearly the top 2 players in the world. And that's a really long time, especially given that these were very active years with a lot of really tough competition. You have Koner, you have the emergence of some of the later greats, you have Meta, as we've seen, you have Kamikaze playing still pretty actively. It's just a very tough era. You have a little of Sujiro in there. Yeah, very strong performances. So now I'm going to pause and wait for the actual games to begin. But this is to say, I think this is TTA's greatest rivalry ever. I think these are, at the very worst, 2 of the 4 best players ever. And I'm really excited to see them go at it. I've made stylistic comparisons before. I see Delial as the Federer to Seto's Nadal. I think that's my preferred analogy for this one. Just fantastic rivalry, and really excited to see the games. And hoping, what I'm rooting for is like 3 really complex, interesting ties, and then a win for Deli because I am biased here. But really excited to see this match. And whoever wins has a really tough road ahead. Either Smokes or Wavy in the next round, and then someone like Akiyama after that, and then the finals, which, say Piggyman or something, or maybe. Really tough road, but really excited to see this match in round 2. And good luck to everyone, and now I'm going to pause the recording and come back when the game has begun. Alright, so I think they're either currently in card select or about to put up. They're going to be going shortly, And so I have a couple people ready to send me comments. Hopefully they have cool stuff to say. Got a crew, possibly too many this time, but we will potentially be receiving comments from Piggyman, Sir Smokes, and Turds. I said them in alphabetical order, so you'll never know who my secret favorite of the three is. But really excited for this game. There we go. I should message all of them to say it's going. And Deli has first turn. And we are receiving messages already. So I thought Seto would go with an 8-7-6-5 hand and 7-6-5 force. I said this to Turds. He can confirm if he chooses. But I did not actually think he'd go for the 9-8-6-2 semi-opposites. They both went for those semi-opposites. Now, I prefer the actual opposite of 8-6-2-9 and 2-9-8-6. I think those play better together. But most players have gone for the pairs you see both players using here. Most players have, because these have the potential for the elemental bonus. I talked about this in another video, but I think the average number of elemental squares is around half the squares, say 5, say just over half. The number of different elements is like 8, so the average number of elements you see of the element a card of yours has per game is a little over half an element per game. Then there's the question of, will it be on a relevant square? I think the odds of that are about 50%. So it's worth about a quarter of an element per game, and I would rather have a little more synergy if I think there is a clear difference, and I think 8-6-2-9 does have clearly more synergy. Okay, looking at the hands, the 7-6-5-4s mean they're going to necessarily be somewhat balanced in a bunch of directions. All right, so it looks like Turds won't be around for this. So we've wished. Yeah, so Smokes notes, and I hadn't actually got here yet, they have 4 of 5 of the same cards. Is that right? They're in different orders. That threw me. Yeah, 4 or 5 of the same cards. The one difference, man, I should have noticed that quicker, is 1-7-8-9 versus 7-6-8-5. And Smokes is thinking he kind of wants to play Omega in 2. Which my first thought was, but our hand is so bad at recapturing that. But if the opponent has the same hand, their hand might be really uncomfortable as well. Yeah, so Smoke's idea is, if I have last turn and they have second turn, and we have the same cards, any kind of setup they do will set me up as well. So I should use the card that their hand doesn't have shared. I think this is an interesting concept in general of when there is a lot of redundancy between hands, this can be really difficult for the second turn player because anything they'd set up is shared. The one not shared card, if we get rid of that early, we potentially make it tough for them to do any of the things they'd want to do, because all of it sets us up too. One sec. Turds has asked the interesting question. What are my instincts? If 2 players have identical hands and open, does first turn have the advantage? Or do you think that would vary depending on what the hand is? I think it's a good question. I think it usually should favor first turn, but it can be hard to adjust to different rule sets. Piggyman thinks just go 2, 9, 8, 6, and 1. You've got both recaptures. And it takes away a potentially strong square given the elements on both sides. This is not the type of move I like. And I have a couple reasons why I'm very skeptical. It is very hard to ever play in 2 after, because anything you put in 2 is susceptible to later combos, right? And so that's one downer to this move. And 2 is the opponent has just as much combo potential, and we are very unlikely to be able to set it up that we have 1 card for both squares. So it's easy for the second turn player to leave both squares alone and just play against whichever card we have left at the end, because we'll only have 1 recapture. I also don't like I'd rather use a low level first if possible. He thinks, however, the level 5s just have a ton of play here. They're not like that much weaker, and they are so good versus the level 8s that it is not that big a downer to hold on to them. All right. Do we have any other comments? We might be also getting commentary from Tezuka. Damn, we have a full crew. All right. Smokes has lost interest because Deli plays slow. That's a funny thought. I think it's interesting. Both Smokes and Turds immediately highlighted how does the game work when you have shared cards, and how do you want to play around that? What are the ways to take advantage of that or to use that effectively? Piggy went with, I have a corner and I think I have it really well supported here, and which cards do I want to hold on to? One thing also about Deli's hand is 2 of the level 8s have a weakness in the same direction. This is something not true of Seto's hand. So I would either want to frame the game so that either one of those cards is out of Deli's hand, and it looks like it's hard to go in 1 because they just take it and you don't have the recapture. If he goes in 2, like Smoke said, that'll just be wild. All right, he's put it back down. I always get worried he's going to time out. But he goes in 6. Now, there's sort of a pairing with 6, 4, 5, 7 there. The only thing that can really ever take that is 2, 9, 8, 6, which either is potentially plus walled by Ifrit if it goes in 8, Ifrit can plus wall in 7, or if it goes in 2, can be plussed by 7, 6, 4, 5, and 5. So I think the idea is that if Seto plays in 3 or 9, Deli can play a wall. I think this is kind of a complicated, but I'm going to do a video on these coming out soon. Maybe already come out, but a defensive side starter. Now, Smokes thinks this is too defensive. You lose ability to interact with 3. You lose diagonals to a bunch of squares when you play a side starter. Yeah. I don't know. It's an interesting move. Let's see if we have other thoughts here. Piggy has the interesting thought of maybe at some point, if you're Deli, you want to occupy 7. That 7, 6, 8, 5 in that square sneakily will sweep anything. Like if the right side of the board in the center fills up, 7, 6, 8, 5 is just going to sweep up down, right? The only thing it can't beat is 9, 6, 2, 8. And usually your final turn, if you're the... But he's not this last turn player. So I'm not so sure you need to be that worried about sweepers. It's an interesting notion. I feel like I'm doing a lot less commentary because I have so many other people. So if you're Seto here, one instinct is go in 3 or 9. Another... Sorry, just thinking through a couple ideas because I haven't actually had too much opportunity to look at the position. I don't think this is a position for 2 or 8 to make much sense. I was thinking like if you can go Ifrit in 8 because neither of you have 5, if that forces them to go 9 and then you have a good move in 7, you can kind of lock in 7 and 8. And it sort of does play a little against Deli's down weakness, but that will give time for Deli to get rid of one of his cards that faces up left when he goes in 9. And I think overall it's probably not too promising. And Deli probably has a good move in 3 at the end, because you don't have any threat in 5 either. So I think not 2 or 8, not that those are like standard squares, but I like to look at them, kind of one of my calling cards. 1 and 7 are pretty standard squares to go in. So Smokes is thinking 6, 4, 5, 7, and 3. And so, okay, that looks like a good main line. 6, 4, 5, 7, and 3, presumably met by 6, 4, 5, 7 in 9. It is pretty hard for Deli to go 2 there, because Seto also will have combos in 5. And then the question is, how do Seto's L's look? I think 2, 9, 8, 6, and 8 is punished by Ifrit and 7, so I think that L does not work. However, Seto might have good L's in 2. I wouldn't be too scared of those if I was Deli, though. I think if the game goes 6, 4, 5, 7, and 3, 6, 4, 5, 7, and 9, that it's Seto who will have to make a careful next move. Now maybe like 7, 6, 8, 5 in 2 or something is just good there, but I'm not sold. I'm not sold. I think that's a position where Deli has a little edge. Piggy says this looks like a strong move. It is both recaptures and it also takes away a strong card. And it sort of preys on Seto's hand a bit, because if he ever uses 2, 9, 8, 6, his power to the right becomes 6 3s, which I think will be exploitable. That's an interesting call. Hadn't realized the redundant 6s. So I'll message that. Now, 3 6s facing towards the action usually doesn't particularly mean you're going to get comboed really hard on those 6s. We can certainly imagine it. 2, 9, 8, 6 and the right part of the board can sweep that. But I think more often just means it becomes hard for you to take things. I'm not sure how hard it will be. I think against Deli's 6 to the left, there's some plus and same potential. Against the 8, there's some plus wall potential. Not a lot, but the 7, 6, 4, 5 could have it. And it does have it in the square if it's most likely to land. Alright, we have another comment from Steve. From Smokes, I mean. The fire element in 8 has a big impact on this game. Yeah, agreed. Definitely does. Oh, I hadn't actually realized that Ifrit in 8 just has the capture. Oh. That's a good point. Now, I think unlikely to actually go there. So he goes 9 rather than 3. But Ifrit does just have the capture. Now, it's kind of like neither player can play it, because 7, 6, 4, 5 combos back. And combo works with the current power of cards, right? Plus wall, plus all that, unaffected by combo, but the combo, or unaffected by elemental, but the combo chain is. So if someone was to play 9, 6, 2, 8, and 8, that would capture, but it would also be comboed back. Yeah, Deli says, because playing Seto isn't hard enough, playing him on the same hand ups the ante. Yeah, it does. This is definitely something that makes the game a whole bunch trickier to handle. So I'm assuming 6, 4, 5, 7, and 3. We didn't really check where the elemental bonuses are. 7, 6, 8, 5, and 7 is 1. That's part of the reason it's such a good sweeper there, is because it actually takes 7s to the left in 8. So that's a good point by Piggy. It doesn't take 9, 6, 2, 8, but it takes everything else there. So I'm assuming 6, 4, 5, 7, and 3. And then the question is there a good L? I think 2, 9, 8, 6, and 2 is just comboed in 5. And Deli still is 2, 9, 8, 6 there, so he hasn't even given up all his power to the right. He gets his level 5s out of his hand. I have to assume that's very good for Deli. So I think the more likely move after 3 is to go in 8. Smokes points out, and this is maybe the point, is that Shiva can do a unique effect, right? Because Seto can set up an L with 7, 6, 4, 5, and 8, where Shiva has a unique threat in 5 that is not shared in Deli's hand. And if Deli ever goes in 5, then Seto's threat in 2 reemerges, because Deli doesn't have the combo back in 5 anymore. So so this might be really good for Seto. If Deli has to play 3 and Seto can play 8, he will have a threat in 5, which means he suddenly has a threat in 2 again. Now, if Deli has combo play against that threat in 5, maybe there's a good retort. I don't immediately see it, though. There. No, I now think this looks tricky for Deli. Because I think Smokes has identified the key line. Piggy has pointed out Ifrit amusingly just has a capture in 8. Yes, indeed, this is amusing. But 6, 4, 5, 7, and 3, if Seto goes in 8, we need a plan there. And that plan could be that we can block 5. It could just be that we can block 5 there. For instance, Ifrit in 5. They have choice between types of captures in 2. But some combination of 7, 6, 4, 5 in 7 and 2, 9, 8, 6 in 1 has a good chance to hold there. So I think there's a decent chance he's in okay shape there. All right, what do we have for commentary? Smoke says 2, 9, 8, 6, and 2. 2, 9, 8, 6, and 2. Well, that's a complicated idea. It does have the neat point that because the card in 9 is weak to 6, combo potential against the card in 6 is more powerful. What was my idea? Maybe I was thinking 6, 4, 5, 7, 3, 7, 6, 4, 5, 8. Ifrit 5 might tie. But I'm not sure on that at all. Because the point is, after 3, 8, 5, if 2, 9, 8, 6 in 2, Seto leads 6, 4, but then Deli can play 7, 6, 4, 5 in 7. That makes it 5, 5. Seto, 2, 9, 8, 6. Either Seto doesn't capture or 2, 9, 8, 6 is enough captures back to tie there. And importantly, 7, 6, 8, 5, and 4, which plus walls 7 in this combos, you have the combo back in 1 with 2, 9, 8, 6. So for instance, 2, 9, 8, 6, 2, 7, 6, 4, 5, 4, 7, and you have 7, 6, 8, 5, 4 covered. All right, Deli does go in 3. It was hard to think of serious alternative. Like Smokes pointed out an idea in 2. Deli probably did consider that given his style, but I think 3 is clearly like the default option. Barring anything else, 3 is the space you're likely to be in. Shiva in 2 is another legitimate reply. So if Seto goes 7, 6, 4, 5, and 8, Deli goes Ifrit 5. Seto plays Shiva 2, leading 6-4, then I feel like we can play 2-9-8-6-1 first. Instead of starting in 7 there. I'm sorry if these lines are unclear. But the line I'm currently thinking is 7-6-4-5-8, Ifrit 5, Shiva 2, takes a 6-4 lead, but 2-9-8-6 should be at least a tie there. Yeah, because 7-6-4-5 has already been used, so those are the 2 cards that cover 2-9-8-6 in that line. So I'm currently thinking 7-6-4-5 and 8 is a good try, and Ifrit 5 should tie. There's no move in 1 that sets up a big threat in 4 after that, so any move in 1 I think can just be met in 2. 7's very possible. Maybe you can start in 7. 2-9-8-6, however, can take anything in 7 and is not susceptible to combos on Ifrit, so you will be up 6-4 and they can't take more than 1 card, so you can't lose there. Yeah. Smokes thinks, bit of a silly rule that you can't use the same card multiple times. Agreed, that does mess up lots of calculations. So I think the critical line here is a tie, but Delhi has to be pretty precise to get there. Piggy, on the other hand, is in a very different direction. He thinks 6-4-5-7 was what he was thinking too. Feels like the obvious move, given that the only recapture is comboed back safely. Hard to find a really good move for Seto here. So I think Smokes and I are on the this is favorable for Seto and Delhi has to be careful train. And Piggy is on the this is dangerous for Seto and this is dangerous for this is safe for Delhi and Seto. I don't know what I just said. Clearly, Smokes and I think Seto has the advantage. Piggy thinks Delhi has the advantage here. All very good players. Smokes bringing up the idea of what if Seto just goes 2-9-8-6 and 2? With the idea of it drawing 7-6-4-5 out of Delhi's hand, he combos back, he leads 6-4, and Ifrit in 8 will just be safe. It has the combo, that doesn't flip any extra cards, and it will be 5-5. Interesting. That's interesting. I think Ifrit in 7 should tie versus that idea. Robot 2-9-8-6-2, Robot 5, Ifrit 8, Ifrit 7, I think ties. I should combine these chats into one place. Doomy is asking about if Ifrit ever lands an 8 and then is comboed, does that flip 9? I think the answer is yes. I've answered yes. I think I should try to make one conversation. How do we do that? I don't know how Discord works. Yeah, everyone hates E. Doomtrain and I disagree about what would happen. Find or start a conversation. He does go 2-9-8-6 and 2. So, okay, another idea is that Smokes has pointed out. So I thought 7, 6, 4, 5, and 5. And if Seto goes Ifrit in 8, Dully can play Ifrit in 7, and I believe that ties. Another idea, however, is to meet 5 with 7, 6, 8, 5 in 1, which is safe. Which is safe. All right, counting cards. So 7, 6, 4, 5, and 5 puts Dully up 6, 4. 1 makes it 5, 5. It's kind of scary. Maybe you can just go, maybe you can just go 2, 9, 8, 6, and 8 at the end. Yeah. Piggy surprised by this one. I think it's been interesting because we very clearly had, in the people I'm talking with, Piggy has just very clearly found Delial to have advantages, and Smokes and I have thought Seto did. I wonder how different it would be without Elemental, because I'm sure that throws all of us off a bit. But I think Dully has ties. I think, for instance, 7, 6, 4, 5, and 5, 7, 6, 8, 5, and 1. I think 2, 9, 8, 6, and 8 is a tie because Ifrit in 7 is plussed by Ifrit in 4. 6 plus 5 equals 9 plus 2. So I think that scrapes a tie in weird fashion. But it's all... I think this is scary. I think this is scary. All right, we are checking with more people. Tezuka thinks in a case where Ifrit captures 9 and then Ifrit is comboed, Tezuka thinks 9 would flip. I think 9 would flip. Doomtrain thinks it wouldn't flip. The important thing is none of us are 100% sure. And that's what you want in a tournament game. Ooh, Piggy, interesting idea. 2, 9, 8, 6, and 4. Giving Ifrit all the squares. Deli does have last turn. That's complicated. All right, I wanna figure out how to start a new conversation. No, I want to start a new one. Create new conversation. Plus, create DM. I figured it out. No. Why won't it let me add the people I want to add? Direct messages. Create DM. No idea. Discord sucks. Smokes thinks 4 feels messy. I agree, but it might be a reasonable answer. Piggy now is backing down on 4 because Seto has 2, 6, 9, 6, 2, 8 as well. But usually, if both of you have all the combo scores with the same card, that's going to favor first turn. So that wouldn't be the reason I'd be scared. I would just have to spend more time calculating. Then I have not spent that time calculating. So I'm gonna... But I think that looks promising. You know, any move in 7 or 8 you play in the other one, and Ifrit in 1 just guarantees captures of 1 itself, obviously, 4, 2, 3, and it guarantees you have 6 at the end. So that's just 5 cards guaranteed. Decent chance of more. I think if you go 4, it pretty much forces Seto to occupy 1 or 5 immediately. probably 1. And then you go Ifrit 5. 7, 6, 4, 5 is pretty good in that endgame. I suspect that gets a tie. I suspect that's a tie. Piggy finds it delicious. Smoke's saying it doesn't work because if Seto goes 1 and you go 5, Seto has combos in 7. But the combos in 7 do, but the elemental in 4 means those never flip extra on a combo. Alright, he does go for it. And as Piggy says, hey, my boy! Alright, so we've gone for it. Does flip robot, though. Yeah. Well, this has been fun because everyone has... Actually, Smokes and I have been on pretty similar pages. I think he's thought it was worse. I think, like, fundamentally there's been a continuum where Piggy thinks this has been better for Deli the whole way. Just the whole way. From move 1, good start, good continuation, hard to find good moves for Seto. Smokes has been on the, this is probably, like, this is very close to losing. How do we defend against either 2 or 8 in the L's that result? And I've sort of been in, it looks like there's probably a tie camp. For what it's worth, the probably a tie camp may end up looking right, but is kind of the least practically useful, right? Because Piggy had interesting ideas like this move in 4 because he was looking for advantage for Deli. Smokes had a lot of interesting ideas for Seto because he was looking for advantage for Seto. And my ideas were all, here's a calculated line, probably leads to a tie. Eh? Smokes has correctly identified that Elemental is the worst. So I thought this looked like a tie. I thought the main line looked like something in 1, Ifrit in 5 necessarily flips back 3 cards. So Seto will have flipped 1 to make it 7-3. Deli will flip 3 cards. He will lead 6-4. He will have 1 card left and will control 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And he will have 7, 6, 4, 5 as his last card. That can capture anything that goes in 8. And if Seto plays either of the 7-6 XYs in 7, that makes it 5-5. That card doesn't flip anything extra. And 7-6-4-5 has no captures on the final move. So I think we're just headed for a tie here. But as we've seen this game, I'm the player that tries to find ties for everyone. I think this was a nice move. I think this was more I believe 5 tied, but I think this did so more comfortably and while applying more pressure. Like, I think the moves I wanted him to play in 5, like 7, 6, 4, 5, I think those scrape to tie against Ifrit 8. I think those scrape to tie against Shiva in 1. But, you know, just scraping by, right? Just relying on 1 combo at the end to not lose. Here, however, I think he is the active participant in the tie, as it were. And I think that is an important difference. Possibly not here, possibly not against an opponent as strong as Seto, who I think is not going to screw up either way. But if you've gotten something wrong in my line, you've missed a trick, I think you just lose. And if you've missed a trick here, I think this is probably, like, I don't think you can have missed enough to lose here. And I think you can have missed enough to lose in my line. Very important that E means any combo on the card in 4. Smokes is repeating that E is perhaps not the best rule ever. But it has created some interesting games this round. I've actually, I can't admit this in public, can I? I have somewhat not completely hated these games. I've found them vaguely, teensy bit interesting. Just a teeny bit. So, yeah, I think this should be a tie. Seto has picked up 7, 6, 8, 5, which was Smokes' preferred card to go in 1. So he does go Shiva in 1. So my main line, unless I've missed something, haven't checked 7 or 8 though here. But my main line was Ifrit 5, gonna flip 3 things, go up 6, 4, and if Seto goes 8, he will lose, but if Seto goes 7 with exactly 7, 6, 4, 5, then Delhi's 7, 6, 4, 5 doesn't flip anything at the end, and we have a tie. Interesting game. The move in 4, I think, was really strong because, as has been made clear, I think Seto's been ahead this game. I think Seto was ahead the entirety of the game, and with Delhi's move in 4, it was Delhi who was more looking to win. And I think that was a big turnaround, but late enough that Seto was always going to react correctly. Oh, Delhi wants more. Is he doing it with 7, 6, 5, 4? I don't think he can do it with 7, 6, 5, 4. Then Ifrit 8 kills him. He can't go 7. What? Oh, he still overpowers the card in 4. Alright, this is not how I would have done this. Smokes would like to say he called this game, and he did. He said 1, 7, 8, 9, and 2. It went in 6. He had different orders for the 6, 4, 5, 7s, and 3 and 9, but was generally right that those were the next moves. He first thought Seto would go in 8, but switched to 2, 9, 8, 6, and 2 before it happened. Definitely gets credit there. And we do have a tie. All right, I'm gonna pause for a sec so I can go to the bathroom. All right, I think we're unpaused. Yeah, and that ends game 1. So I think I should split this into multiple videos. But quickly saying, Piggy says he thought this was a win. 4 was a sexy move. Thinks it was a rough run by Seto, and then realized not a win. Thinks he got bamboozled by elementals, and really felt that that Delhi was the one pressing there. Smokes thinks Delhi should have had an advantage off the starter, just with the identical hands that it should have favored first turn, but ended up being kind of on the back foot for the game. Yeah, I don't know. Good complex game. I'm pretty happy to have seen that. I'm rooting for ties, exciting, fun ties, and I definitely got one. So, yeah, hope you like the extra commentary, and we'll move on to game 2.